Tri-Cities, Washington, Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick on the Columbia River. It's the halfway point of the HFC American Hydroplane Series. Hello, everybody. I'm Jim Hendrick along with Dick Crippen. And, Dick, as always, the speeds have risen.
They certainly have. As a matter of fact, our top four qualifiers are within 4 miles an hour of each other, with Circus Circus topping 156 miles an hour. We kind of expected it, Jim. We talked about it in our last show, that this particular course, the Columbia River, is extremely good. When it lays flat, these boats fly, and that's exactly what's happened.
We've got a lot of action in the pits, and for that, covering the pits today is Mark Spencer. Mark?
Thanks a lot, Jim. Speeds are up this year, way up, 7, 8, 9, 10 miles an hour in some cases. And here in Tri-Cities, stop 6 on the HFC Tour, no exception. I'm with Dave Vilwalk, the crew chief of the Circus Circus. Dave, last year, the top time in qualifying, 1:49. Your man, Chip Hanauer, yesterday bumped the record to 1:56. What's the reason for such dramatic speed increases?
Well, I think last year, the drivers talked about the narrow window, that small, minuscule little window that they were shooting at the terrifically high speeds that the boats are traveling. And, over the winter and all the development that we've done, there are a multitude of little, small changes that are hard for the average fan to see, but make a huge difference in the overall performance of the boat. And that's what we're seeing every weekend here is a sum of all those developmental things that Circus Circus has allowed us to do through the winter to come up with a really good race boat.
That's right. 4 fast turbines, and everybody's talking about the Circus, the Budweiser, and the Winston. But let's not forget the Pringles. They qualified at 1:52. Back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Dick, it's going to be a very hot day here on the Columbia River.
And as always, weather plays into it. Let's take a look at what we've got. It's going to be very hot, so we'll have to watch how the engines respond. 84 degrees right now, 51% humidity, sunny and calm, and the wind's down.
Thousands of fans are on hand, lining both sides of the Columbia River here in Tri-Cities. They're waiting for the action, and Dick and I will have it all for you in just a moment.
Dick Crippen along with Jim Hendrick as we look at the American flag being presented to the crowd here on the Columbia River. Bernie Little, the owner of that boat. Mark Spencer talked with him before the run.
Bernie Little, you've been at this game of unlimited hydroplane racing for almost 30 years. Is the thrill of victory the same in 1990 as it was way back in 1969 when you got started?
Well, I truly think it is. My first win was here in Tri-City, Washington on the Columbia River. And yesterday I went down the river and kissed the water and told them that I wanted to win here today. And this is their 25th year. So Miss Budweiser's up for it, and we're ready to go. And Tom Deeth is one of the finest drivers. We got the best crew, and we got no excuses if we lose.
Let's talk about Tommy Deeth. You've had all the great ones work for you. What is it specifically about Tommy that makes him so good?
Well, Tom builds boats, and Tom can get in the seat of a boat and go out for one lap and come in and say, this is wrong, that's wrong. He really knows how to set a boat up, and then Tom gives it his all. It doesn't matter if he's in second place or third. He's going for a win, and that's what I like.
Well, here's the high points for the HFC season so far, with Miss Budweiser leading by about 748 points. And that's the rest of the field. Now let's check the starting lineup for Heat 1A. Bill Woosters, Mr. Pringles, George Woods Jr. in the cockpit. It'll be Miss Circus Circus. Tom Tomlinson represents the owner, Bill Bennett. Chip Hanauer drives. Mike Henson drives the whole set, Miss Mazda. Ed Cooper and Mitch Evans team up in Cooper's Express. Winston Eagle to be driven by Jim Cropfell, owned by Steve Woomer. As they come down for the start, Dick Crippen.
In lane 1, it's the Winston Eagle. Lane 2, Cooper's Express. Holset Miss Mazda's in lane 3. Circus Circus, lane 4. And the Pringles on the outside in lane 5. And look at Pringles as she charges to the front. On the inside, the Circus Circus. Watch the Winston Eagle. That could be the determining boat all the way to the inside, pegging the turn. As they come out of that turn now, it's going to be determined which boat will take the lead on the back stretch. It looks like Circus Circus, but Winston Eagle, Jimmy Cropfeld, is not giving him any room at all.
A good arcing turn there, Dick Crippen, but look at this battle as they come down now. Pringles on the outside, coming down to corner number 3, but the short way around the course is Circus Circus as Chip Hanauer, Hickson on the hook, takes the side slide, holds the lead, coming down the complete lap number 1.
Only about 4 boat lengths separating first and third place. In second place, the rainbow-colored Jif presents Mr. Pringles. On the inside of that boat is the Dayglow red boat of the Winston Eagle. So George Woods Jr. trying to catch the boat in front of him and hold off the boat in back of him.
First place, Circus Circus, Mr. Pringles second, Winston Eagle is third, Holset Miss Mazda fourth, and the Cooper Express is currently fifth. As we look at our leader, 146.2 mile an hour on lap number 1.
That's about 6 miles an hour faster than George Woods Jr. at the moment, and the GIF presents Mr. Pringles, but a lot of times in elimination heats such as this, we will see the guys hold onto a top 5 position and be very satisfied with the run of the boat. No sense tearing up the equipment and chancing missing the final later today.
5 laps of each elimination heat. They must run 2 preliminary heats, 400 points for first, 300 points for second, 225 points for third and down the line. After 2 times out, they take the 5 or 6 top point getters and they run for the money here on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington.
And we got to look at how the Columbia River reacts to all this racing, as Chip Hanauer got a little bit airborne on that last turn just before he came into this backstretch run. This river, although it is extremely fast, also has a tendency to get some rollers in it, and the guys constantly have to be attuned to those rollers and watch where they're going. There you can see the third place boat, the Winston Eagle, Jim Kropfeld, very familiar. He's won on this race course before, 133.340 in his initial lap out here. He's now holding on to third place very solidly.
All set, Miss Mazda fourth, the Cooper Express fifth, and look at that Circus Dick. He really is riding a little bit light.
Whoa, he gets way up and salutes the crowd unintentionally. Circus brought back down onto an even plane. Little light for the Jeff Presents Mr. Pringles, an indication of the speed that they're going. Now, when you have a boat like Circus hitting 146.280 on the first lap, that boat actually on the straightaways is hitting upwards of about 195 miles an hour on the straightaways. And remember, with those rollers and such, those guys have to be constantly attuned to the changing conditions of the water.
The Circus 146 on lap 1, 145 on lap 2, and 139, slowing it down a little bit as he comes around to take the green flag, signifying 1 more lap to go, and he'll pick up 400 points here in Heat 1A.
So far, the river has been tamed by Chip Hanauer. Now in second place, George Woods Jr. having a very good ride, and the Jeff Presents Mr. Pringles, a little bit light early on, but you can see he settled her down pretty good. All the lead boats now have passed the Cooper's Express, putting that boat 1 lap down.
He's got to have problems. Mitch Evans can push harder than that, so there's got to be something mechanical or maybe to the hull to have them pass him like that, because he's usually a goer.
The lead boat's now on the back stretch. The final turn coming up for Chip Hanauer and the Circus, averaging about 127.568 on this final lap as he looks now to the starting box to see if he will see the checkered flag. He does. The flag is out and waving as he completes the final turn on the course. So the winner of Heat 1A here in Tri-Cities, Washington, Chip Hanauer in the boat he affectionately calls the Pink Lady, Circus.
And a new 2-mile competition lap course record here on the Columbia River for Circus, 137.2 average for the heat. 3 miles an hour slower in second place, George Woods Jr. in Jeff Presents Mr. Pringles.
Third place, the Winston Eagle, and it looks like a problem with the Winston Eagle. There is. He's lost the cross-section on his wing in the back. That could cause him problems later in the day. They're going to have to get right to work on repairing that boat, and we'll ask the question, will he be able to compete?
Here's the order finished. Let's go to the winner's circle and Mark Spencer.
Chip Hanauer, big win. Where you wanted to be at the start?
Well, we had an engine problem at the low speed, so I had to go outside just to keep the engine RPM up, otherwise the engine wouldn't run.
Were you surprised at the matchup going into the first turn? Looked like there were 3 turbines deck to deck.
I wasn't surprised at all. You know, if you look at qualifying, they were all right there, so we knew that they were going to be there.
Strategy going into Heat 2?
Well, we don't know yet until we see who we draw. You know, it depends a lot on who we draw.
Good luck.
Thanks.
The big concern right now, Jimmy Kropfeld in the Winston Eagle. There you can see as the boat finished, some damage to the back end of the boat, the stabilizing wing. We'll ask the question when we come back, will he be able to compete? The HFC Hydroplane Series, the Budweiser Columbia Cup, continues in a moment.
Back here at Tri-Cities, Washington, the temperature is nearing 100 degrees. A great crowd on hand. Dick Crippen is with the Mr. Pringles driver, George Woods.
Well, George, welcome to the world of offshore racing.
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, Dick, I was talking to the guys on the radio going, holy cow, this thing's really reacting to the water. And he says, just go ahead and don't worry about it. He says, everybody else is flying the same height you are.
You had him right at the start. You got a great start.
Yeah, it's I had that one time pretty good, and not all the time that I can get there first, but it's kind of nice when you do.
Now Heat 1B. Jerry Hopp will drive the U7 Thor Racing. Mark Tate, the rookie for 1990, and Jim Harvey's Old Boy Oberto. U19 Jackpot Food Mart, Bob Fendler and Steve David. And the Miss Budweiser to be driven by Tom Deeth.
And something a little unique for this heat, we're going to go upstairs to Mark, who's with the Budweiser crew chief, Ron Brown.
Ronnie, right at the start, do you make the decision as the lane choice for Tom, or does he make that out on the water?
Well, we consult with Tom. We have our backup driver at most of the races, Scott Pierce, and he is evaluating what some of the other drivers are doing out there. And occasionally we may suggest something to Tom, but it's his race boat. Once he's out there, he pretty much makes a determination, possibly even as late as the last split second, which lane direction he wants to go in. But he has the controls. It's really pretty much up to Tom out there.
Now, as you watch the boat, as it sets up to come down the back straightaway, what kind of things are you looking for?
Well, one of the big things that we try and read is the rooster tail, see how chopper the rooster tail is, and that pretty well determines and lets us know how the propeller is biting and how the overall boat ride is. And occasionally we can watch the sponsons too and see what kind of spray is coming off the sponsons, also giving us a determination of how the boat's riding. But we have an onboard computer that tells us what the speeds are and accelerations of the boat is. So some of that stuff is pretty hard to determine from shore, from this distance. But mainly right now what we're looking at is how choppy the rooster tail is and how much spray is coming off the sponsons.
We're letting you listen to the comments of the crew chief of the Miss Budweiser, Ron Brown, get an idea of what he looks for in the boats as he watches from the shoreline. The Miss Budweiser in the lead. Oh boy, Alberto in second place. This boat right here, the Jackpot Food Mart boat, now in third, and Thor Racing in fourth. Let's go back to Ronnie.
Get a little technical for us as you watch the boat come down the straightaway. Specifically, what kind of things are you looking for as far as ride attitude?
Well, again, if the boat happens to be diving over and it's what we call the nose of the boat or the sponsons very hard, that may be a determination of how much lift is generated by the propeller. And if it is diving over its nose real hard, well, we may have to either make a different propeller selection for the next heat or possibly even do some tuning to the boat. For instance, the horizontal stabilizer, the rear wing on the back of the boat, we can take something like that and put more downforce on a propeller to try and hold it in. And/or Tom has the controls on the canard wings in the front, so he has some adjustments there. But so even though that we may find something that's not quite working correct for this heat, we do have adjustments that could possibly correct that propeller and make it even a better propeller in another heat. So we do have adjustments that we can do, quite a few of them on shore. The only thing Tom himself has as a driver is the canard wing controls. And those are one of the most important controls for him as a driver. He can obviously get the boat upside down if he does make a wrong move with those canards.
And allowing for that, you can understand the pressure on a young man like the man in this cockpit, the Oh Boy Oberto boat driven by rookie Mark Tate. Here's a young man who never raced an unlimited hydroplane before this season. Now he is in one. Not only that, he started in a piston engine unlimited hydroplane. They have converted it over to the turbine powered. And now you understand what he has to be thinking about in that cockpit as he watches the many gauges for the turbine engines. He has to also be concerned with the control of wings on the boat. The yellow boat, the Miss Budweiser, is passing right now. The Jackpot Food boats with Stephen David, that one has upwards of 6 wings on it that are controllable, so he's really got himself a job, and they're still ironing everything out. As you can see, Tom Deeth has just great control of the Miss Budweiser. She's coming around the final turns now for the checkered flag to take the win in Heat 1B. So it will be Tom Deeth to equal in points for the day, the Circus winner in Heat 1A. Both boats now with 400 points as they head to the second elimination heats of the day. Well, Bernie Little, the owner of the Miss Budweiser, said he kissed the river earlier today, so maybe that had a difference. I don't know, but so far it is certainly playing to the favor of the Miss Budweiser crew. Second place in Heat 1B, the rookie driver we talked about just moments ago, Mark Tate in the Oh Boy Oberto. A little bit light as he comes across the finish line and takes the checkered flag for second place. Third place is Jackpot Foods. Fourth place is Thor Racing, and there you see their point totals. We'll be back to more of the HFC Hydroplane Series and the Budweiser Columbia Cup from Tri-Cities, Washington in just a moment.
Jim Hendrick along with Dick Crippen back here in Tri-Cities, Washington for the Columbia Cup. Let's go to Mark Spencer in the Budweiser pits. Mark?
Tommy Deeth, you made that one look easy.
Well, it was fairly easy heat, actually. There was only 4 of us out there, so the water conditions were better. And I didn't have the Winston or the Circus, so it was, and the Pringles, they're running real good. But maybe the next heat will be a different story. I'll have to run harder.
A learning curve. A lot of concerned looks on the crew this morning. I know you tried something different there in Heat 1. Do you feel you've got a combination now that can take you to victory lane?
I think so, yeah. Miss Budweiser is well prepared for today, and our intention is to get in victory lane.
Now it's time for Performance Corner. For high-performance parts in over 700 stores nationwide, call 1-800-533-8989 for the store nearest you.
In the early 1980s, the sport of unlimited hydroplane racing took a giant step forward in technology with the advent of turbine engines. Doug, how does a turbine motor work?
Well, Mark, the turbine engine is really a pretty simple machine. It's a continuous combustion machine, which means as long as we add fuel and air, there's a fire going on inside the motor all the time. That happens in this section, which is the hot section, to call it. The gases expanding inside this section are pushed out the back and turn a fan-like device called a turbine wheel. That fan is connected to a shaft that goes up forward to the gearbox and then drives the propeller underneath this boat.
Power to weight ratio, that's what wins boat races. Compare a turbine with a piston engine.
Well, you know, a turbine engine and a piston engine like the World War II aircraft engines used in these boats today really produce about the same amount of horsepower. But a turbine engine may weigh as much as 1,000 pounds less when installed in one of these boats. That's a tremendous power to weight advantage. That's why we put minimum weight restrictions on turbine-powered boats to remain competitive with a piston-type engine.
So horsepower-wise, they're very similar, but what advantage does the turbine have, say, in the corners?
Well, a turbine engine will produce all the horsepower it's capable of at any output RPM. A typical piston engine, when you slow it down, cannot produce its full capable horsepower. So a turbine engine has much like an infinitely variable fluid drive or transmission to the propeller. It gives them an advantage in the corner.
The crowd here in Tri-Cities also getting a look at some hydros from the past, those hydros from the Unlimited Hydroplane Hall of Fame.
A year ago at this very spot, we were talking to Bob Williams, the president and managing director of the Unlimited Hydroplane Hall of Fame, and I understand, Bob, it's now a reality.
Absolutely. We signed a 30-year lease on the main waterfront of the city of Tacoma for 45,000 square foot building, $10 a year. And we're off and running. We're raising funds every way we can. And we're at the point now we need the support of all the fans and sponsors to make this thing go.
You're raising money by selling, I understand, some of the old programs that are collector's items, buttons,
right,
paraphernalia?
Things that are donated by the boat camps help us a lot. The old-time fans come and bring us old clothing and stuff, and we always sell it and raise the funds.
How many historic boats will be in the museum?
We'll probably display 15 at all times. We've got 16 now, and we'll have a shop in the building restoring the old boats, and we'll have the restaurant and the theater and the Hall of Fame section. It's going to be a crackerjack place to go.
As the crowd awaits the start of Heat 2A, another special display is of interest on the water.
A special racing guest here in Tri-Cities. The current leader in the APBA offshore circuit, Reggie Fountain, has brought his 42-foot Lightning all the way from North Carolina to give the fans on the Columbia River a taste of what offshore racing is like. Quite a difference between Reggie's offshore boat and the Unlimited Hydroplanes. Reggie's boat's 42 feet in length, is powered by twin turbocharged big blocks with Mercruiser stern drives. The boat is capable of speeds nearing 120 miles an hour, and as you can see, it takes 3 people in the cockpit to keep this boat on course. The Unlimited Hydroplanes, they like it when the water conditions are about 6-7 inches, just a mild chop. Reggie, he gets a smile on his face when the weather conditions call for 6 to 8 foot swells.
Well, the crowd here in Tri-City's trying to cool down in near 100-degree heat as we get ready for Heat 2A of our unlimited program today. The HFC American Hydroplane Series, this the Budweiser Columbia Cup.
Back here on Tri-Cities, Washington's Columbia River, I'm Jim Hendrick along with Dick Crippen and Mark Spencer as we get set for the next heat of action. Heat 2A as the boats come down for the start. Oberto, Circus Circus, Miss Mazda, Jackpot Food Mart, and Cooper's Express, and for the call, Dick Crippen.
Thank you, Jim. Oh boy, Alberto in lane number 1, Holsip Miss Mazda. Lane 2, Circus Circus. Lane 3 on the outside, Cooper's Express in lane 4. Stephen David did not start in the Jackpot Food boat, and there's a great shot as they go into turn number 1. Circus Circus on the outside trying to take command. But remember, the boat on the inside, the Oh Boy Alberto in this case, has a shorter course to run. He may be able to even it up. Let's see as they hit the back stretch. It looks like Circus Circus in command. Oh boy, Alberto has got his problems with the Holset Miss Mazda. That is a piston boat, the Holset Miss Mazda, and the Oh boy, Alberto is a turbine-powered boat. But look at Mike Hansen as he's pulling him for second place.
As it comes off of quarter number 4, Dick, the Circus Circus is showing them the short way around the course, well on his way to a 135-mile-an-hour lap, and the first lap of 5.
So good speed being accomplished again as the river is smooth at this point, 135.791. The river tends to roughen up as the boats continue on their laps because the water comes back off the banks on either side and goes back toward the center of the course. Oh boy, Alberto riding in second place. Now you can actually see the heat waves on your television screen as we take a long shot across the course of the leader, Miss Circus Circus.
Mark Tate and Oh boy, Alberto is in second place, but just to the right of your screen, not in the picture, strong is the whole set Miss Mazda with Mike Hansen. You know, Dick, this year, Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Pasco, and Richland are celebrating their silver anniversary of unlimited hydroplane racing. Every type of boat racing over the years has been here, but 25 years, our boat racing unlimited style right here on the Columbia River.
And it has always drawn tremendous crowds and tremendous competition, as we can see this afternoon. We look at the Holsip Miss Mazda. Now, this boat is in third, but you can see as they came off the corner, the relationship to the second place boat, the Oh boy, Alberto. Mike Hansen continues to charge hard. He's holding an average of about 2 boat lengths off the second place boat. So he's really got that boat operating today.
Lap number 2 for the Circus Circus. 129.8 mile an hour. So he slowed it down, Dick, about 6 mile an hour. Cooper's Express. Look at this boat. Now, this boat won this race last year. And was it a thrill for that team?
Boy, they got excited, and they still stay in there with those dreams of doing it again. But if these turbine boats continue to operate the way they've been operating so far, it's going to be a tough, long haul for any of the Pistons. However, as you can see, one of the turbine boats right now has this problem with a piston. On the inside, Mike Hansen is trying to take second place away from the boat on the outside, the green, red, and white, Oh boy, Alberto.
Almost like a drag race, and on the inside, the short way will be Mike Hansen. Holset Miss Mazda, but look at the turbine come on, pull abreast, and now pass him again.
And remember, this is a rookie driver in that turbine boat, the Oh boy, Alberto, Mark Tate. He's still getting used to that boat. He's got to be very attuned to the flight of the boat because they have tended to get a little bit light on this course. All the boats have, and you can see he lifted a sponsonaire, and as he does, Mike Hansen again moves in. Now, Mike Hansen's boat, because of that big engine that you can see right behind the driver, tends to look a little bit heavier, but in reality, the boats are pretty equal, so they can both fly very light across the water.
And it's very possible that the Holset Miss Mazda from Madison, Indiana, might have a turbine next year and could compete very strongly.
Well, certainly if they get a big-name sponsor on that boat, and it certainly is deserving of a big-name sponsor, they will go turbine-powered. The boat was originally designed with the idea that they would be able to convert it over to turbine. There you get a great shot of Mike Hansen and the Holset Miss Mazda, the boat owned by the folks of Madison, Indiana. 127.382 for the Miss Circus Circus as Chip Hanauer continues to dominate.
Holset Miss Mazda moves up to second place and actually had a faster lap than the Circus Circus by 1 mile an hour on that last lap. The green flag was out the last time. We're on the back chute on the final lap, and the checkered flag is waiting for the second straight time for this boat, Circus Circus.
Chip Hanauer has got to be happy. It'll be another 400 points in the pocket. Here's the Cooper's Express still holding in there in 4th place. As we told you, Stephen David and the Jackpot Food Mart boat was not able to start.
Here's your leader, coming around off of corner number 4, the Pink Lady. Jim Hedauer wins Heat 2A at an average speed of 128.518. Second. Whoa! Taking a hook is the Holset Miss Mazda. No! The Alberta went inside, and I don't know how Mark Tate missed him. Oh, what a driving piece by that rookie. He's going to take 2nd place. He almost bought the farm, but he saved it. Oh, my goodness. Holset Miss Mazda. Mike Hansen hooks the boat. Will have to settle for 3rd. What a race. Let's go down to the pits. Here's your results. Circus wins for the 2nd time today. Let's go down to the pits right now and talk with the winning driver.
All right, Chip, well, another win. You didn't have an awful lot of competition out there. How was the water?
Well, the water's really a mess. This first corner is just really, really ugly. And by the 3rd or 4th lap, it's just piling up, and it's just ugly.
All right, the last couple of weeks we've been running 3 laps for each heat. Now all of a sudden you're up to 5. You got to learn a little bit faster?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
In other words, do you have to learn a little bit faster when you go the 5 laps instead of the 3 heat format?
Not really. I prefer this. It's easier on us, because once you get out in front, the next 2 laps are pretty easy. So it's easier on me, and it's easier on the crew. We don't have to make as many changes throughout the day, so I like it.
Let's go down to the camp of the Holset Miss Mazda now and find out what happened on that last turn.
All right, Michael, what happened down there?
Oh, we got hooked up with Alberto for a few laps there, and I dove the inside, tried to beat him that way. Finally got out in front of him, but the rollers were awful big out there in that lane 1, lane 2, and lane 3 and 4 for that matter. Just it got me in the last turn down there. Just fell in a great big hole, and the boat came around and did kind of a half spin, and by the time the water cleaned off the canopy, there went Mark Tate on the inside of me. I mean, there wasn't much room. I got to commend his driving. He did a real good job avoiding a major mess down there, but it just got away from us that time.
Mark, there's an old saying in racing, it ain't over till it's over. Your perspective on what happened on that last turn?
Well, I really couldn't tell at first that Mike did hook it, but when going into the corner, I tried to duck on the inside of him, and then as we came right off the exit pin there, Mike started coming to the inside of the race course, so I just started bearing to the left as far as I could and snuck my Mike.
The temperatures are rising, and the heat of action also. Forthcoming on ESPN after this timeout.
Back on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington, Dick Crippen along with Jim Hedrick and Mark Spencer as we get ready for Heat 2B in the Budweiser Columbia Cup.
4 boats are in this one, Dick. 3 turbines and 1 piston engine.
In lane 1, it's the Thor Racing Team boat. Lane 2, Miss Budweiser. Lane 3, the Winston Eagle. And the Jif presents Mr. Pringles on the outside in lane number 4. And it looks like Winston Eagle is going to come up hard on lane 3 and see if he can take the lead. A great shot of the helicopter. On the inside, it is the Miss Budweiser. Watch them as they come through. Miss Budweiser looked like she caught part of the rooster tail and flies up and over, right side up. Tommy Deeth has not even taken his foot off it. He's got power to the Miss Budweiser. Now riding in 3rd place. He's going to try to come up on the pack.
Oh, meanwhile, Mr. Pringles takes the lead and slightly over Winston Eagle, placing the Miss Budweiser back in 3rd. But look at Jim Kropfeld on the inside in the red Winston Eagle.
Interesting to watch the difference in the ride of those boats. You can see Jif presents Mr. Pringles getting a little light on the outside, while on the inside, Winston Eagle was holding very steady, got a little bit light coming out of the turn down there, but also has gotten the lead. So Jim Kropfeld has the lead by about a boat length over the 2nd place boat. Jif presents Mr. Pringles. Still playing catch-up is the Miss Budweiser, 138.773 for the lead boat, Winston Eagle.
And here comes Jif presents Mr. Pringles as George Woods comes on the outside. He's hitting in the tail now. Now you'll just see him nose up. The rooster tail, the Winston Eagle. Now here he comes, lane 2, and he edges out front. They're playing seesaw, deck to deck, sponson to sponson battles right here.
Well, so many times we refer to the inside boat as having an advantage because of the short course, and that's exactly what George Woods Jr. is trying to compensate for now on the outside. He knows he has got to have the lead into the turn if he intends to have it coming out, because the shorter course makes the difference on the turn.
George Woods Jr., Mr. Pringles, takes over 1st place here at lap number 2, 141.2 mile an hour, his fastest lap so far.
George Woods Jr. took command, and now the Miss Budweiser back in third, still trying to play a little catch-up, but I think Tommy Deeth has decided not to risk any damage to the boat. He's going to hold it back in third place, be happy with it. He'll have enough points to make it into the final heat. If he just finishes third, he will then issue the challenge, and it will be quite a challenge. George Woods Jr. proving himself a very formidable competitor, as is the Winston Eagle team with Jim Cropfeld in the cockpit for the Winston Eagle. He had a very good tie-up with the Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles early on, but since about lap number 3, George Woods Jr. has taken command.
Well, on lap number 3, interesting enough, Miss Budweiser running about 14 mile an hour faster in third than the second place Winston Eagle, as we look at our leader completing lap number 3 at 142.8.
142.893, and you've got to know that he is hitting better than 190 miles an hour on the straightaways. That's a tremendous ride for George Woods Jr. There's Winston Eagle still very solid in second place. He's the one that's got to be concerned with Tommy Deeth, because those two have raced a lot of years together in the smaller boats and now in the Unlimiteds. Jimmy Cropfeld is very well aware of some of the sneaky tactics of one Tom Deeth, and he knows he's liable to just come right up on him.
As they come off of corners number 3 and 4, coming around the green flag lap. That means one more lap to go, and they have completed Heat 2B as we look at our third place boat. Coming up on the second place boat, there's a good aerial shot. Tommy Deeth might give it a ride with a lap and a quarter to go.
I just finished saying that Jim Cropfeld is aware of how Tommy Deeth can race, and he knows he doesn't give up easily. Tommy Deeth in the Miss Budweiser trying to catch this boat, the Winston Eagle. Look at the difference now as Tommy Deeth has closed down the gap. He was the boat that flew high over 2 rooster tails, it looked like. We'll find out after the race if that was indeed true at the start of this heat. But now he has come up to within about 3 boat lengths.
What I'm going to look at, and you too, Dick, I'm sure, how much damage did the Miss Budweiser sustain in corner number 1 on the first lap? Is she damaged? How is she running?
She came down on the tail end of the boat, and that's a very delicate end because it holds the prop and everything in position. We'll find out at the end of the heat. Meanwhile, the checkered flag is flying high for Mr. Pringles as they are now coming around the final turns. The second place boat, Winston Eagle, Jimmy Cropfeld, and now riding third, the Miss Budweiser. There is your winner of Heat 2B, George Woods Jr. in Jiff Presents Mr. Pringles.
Second place will be the Winston Eagle, driven by Jim Cropfeld. Third for the Miss Budweiser and Tommy Deeth. The Youth Thor Racing Team with Jerry Hopp finishes overall 4th as we look at our leaderboard for Heat 2B. Now let's go down to the pits and Dick Crippen. Dick?
All right, George, number 1. I don't think anybody's going to say that you didn't earn that one.
Yeah, I've been saying that all weekend long. The fans are going to get to see some real racing out there, and boy, that was some good deck-to-deck battle going on out there.
Were you aware of the situation with the Miss Budweiser as they came off the turn?
No, I didn't know exactly what happened. I know that the second lap, the guy said that the Budweiser got into the rooster tail and got himself wet down, so I didn't see exactly what happened.
You were looking ahead?
Oh, yes, I was looking way ahead.
A concerned Bernie Little looking at the damage sustained by Miss Budweiser in that flight. And look at that whole right side of the back boat, really damaged. The crew has their work cut out for him. Dick Crippen is with the driver, Tommy Deeth.
All right, Tom, number 1, kind of an e-ticket ride for you again.
Yeah, it was pretty scary. I guess a roller got me again. I had the boat in pretty good position, although the Winston, he pulled me going to the first turn. And I got into the corner, and then it launched off a roller. It was nice and level, but it just carried me into Jimmy's tail, and then I went over the top of him. I started to come down, and I felt another tail underneath me, and I started to go back up again. I was just hoping I was going to come down right side up.
Now let's take a look from the inside camera. Across the bridge here on Tri-Cities, Washington's Columbia River. Look at the Budweiser. Goes up in the tail, disappears, but he does make it out okay. We have more action coming up on the Columbia River for the Budweiser Cup, Tri-Cities, Washington, on the HFC Hydroplane Series 1990. There is some concern in the damaged Budweiser camp here in Tri-Cities, Washington. Let's go down to Dick Crippen.
Bernie, they're busy again.
Yeah, Dick, it's a Columbia River time, and, we've had a multitude of problems on the river here, and like I said, we'd win the Indiana race if the river didn't bite us, and it bit us, and so did this one, but it's just something that can't be helped. The speeds they're running, he's coming 196 mile an hour down that straightaway. That's moving out.
It certainly is, but I think you have to feel good in the way the boat came down. It did come back down right side up. I honestly don't think I've ever seen a boat in my racing that went that high out of the water at that particular angle and came down right side up.
Yeah, I think the rooster tail of one of the outside boat is what got it back down, really. At least that's what it looks like. But you know the Budweiser crew, they'll be working here. We got an hour, and we'll get it to where it's raceable. It certainly won't be up to 100%, but we can't get out of that points race that easy. We're not going to give anything to anybody.
Well, with the final coming up, let's take an inside look at one of the fine racing teams of Unlimited Powerboat Racing, Cooper's Express. Here's Mark Spencer. Mark?
The surprising defending champions here at the Tri-Cities race are the Cooper's Express. Ed, tell us about the guys on the team, the guys that make the boat work.
Well, our team probably is the most unique team in unlimited hydroplane racing today, in that our team is strictly all volunteers. We have no paid crew members. Our driver, Mitch Evans, actually built this boat. Most of the teams here have professionally built boats by Ron Jones and some of the other big name designers. So Mitch Evans built the boat, and he primarily takes care of the boat. He does propellers and drivetrain and the setup on the sponsons and that sort of thing. Another crew member that's very instrumental is Gary Turner. He builds the cylinder banks for our engines, does the valve work and the piston work and that sort of thing. Mike Hall works with Mitch on the hull, and he primarily does repair and the fiberglass that you see going on behind us where we just pulled a tank out. That's basically his responsibility to do that kind of work. Rick Bowles from Chelan, Washington, he primarily works on the skid fin assembly here and the propellers and the hull work that needs to be done. Myself, I'm the crew chief. I run the team. I build the engines. I take care of the fuel injection, the turbochargers, the electronic systems in the boat. My father also is the co-owner of the boat. He has the responsibility of taking care of the fuel and the fueling systems and some of the hull work and the trailer and some of the other things that we do.
In the crowd here at Tri-Cities, Washington, one man with some very special interest in this final heat.
We're with Stan Hanauer, the father of Chip Hanauer, who's had a great career in boat racing. And Stan, where did it all begin? How old was he?
Well, he was 9 years old. He saved his money from a paper route. $175. He bought an engine, a helmet, and a boat. And from that time, we started racing.
And you're talking about 8 or 9 years old? In what kind of class?
It's called a J Stock. It's for children from 9 to 12 years of age.
So he's been racing quite a bit for his young years.
He's never had a summer off that he hasn't been racing.
And you've seen the back of a lot of pickup trucks, I'm sure?
Oh, we've been all over the country with outboards and limiteds, and it's just been a neat association.
He won some national championships in the inboard class, didn't he?
Yes, I think he has 7 or 9 national championships before he was 17 years old.
So you've really influenced his life, but yet you stay right with him. I've seen you at a lot of races. You're a father, of course, and I imagine a very proud father at this point.
Oh, I am very proud of him. I've been proud of him if he had been a violinist or anything else. Tried to support him in whatever he does.
The Miss Budweiser, damage and all, is in the water. Tommy Deeth is ready to fire her up for the final heat. And we'll be back with that final heat on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington, as we continue with the HFC Hydroplane Series and the final, the Budweiser Columbia Cup. We're ready for the run for all the marbles here on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington. Dick Crippen along with Jim Hedrick and Mark Spencer, the Circus boat with 800 points. He's leading the field coming into this final heat of action. Jeff presents Mr. Pringles, a winner in Heat 2B. And here's the damaged Miss Budweiser. If you look to the left of your screen, right under the wing in the back, you can see the hole in the boat. There is damage to that boat. Tommy's got to be concerned.
Chip Hanauer will drive Circus. As always, in this final heat, Mr. Pringles with George Woods Jr. at the wheel, winner of one of the preliminary heats. Miss Budweiser, damaged and all. Tommy Deeth at the controls. Old Boy Oberto with the rookie, showing fine driving today, Mark Tate. And Jim Kropfeld, the veteran, in the Winston Eagle. Also, the whole set Miss Mazda with Mike Hansen. And rounding out the field, the Cooper's Express, driven by Mitch Evans.
The boat's coming down to the start line, but it looks like engine trouble for the Miss Circus. The turbine engine is not producing the power to keep the boat on a high plane. We'll watch closely to see if he even takes a start. Meanwhile, we have quite a bit of competition between the Winston Eagle and the Miss Budweiser on the far outside. They come down almost dead even to take the start here in the final heat of action. This is the championship for the Budweiser Columbia Cup.
And what a shot from our helicopter as they hit corner number 1 on this very first lap. And in front, it's the Winston Eagle in lane number 2. And on the outside, not too far back, is the Miss Budweiser, inching up in his rooster tail. We're going to have one whale of a race if this continues.
Boy, this sure demonstrates the amount of faith that Tom Deeth has in that pit crew for the Miss Budweiser as you see him put power on with that damage to the back of the boat. But it's not concerning him at this point. This is the Winston Eagle in the lead, popping out of the water. It looks like the water is already roughed up in this, the first lap. So Jim Kropfeld has been served notice already as he serves notice on the rest of the field. Tommy Deeth being forced to go very far to the outside of the course, then he keeps his speed high.
The Circus restarted, but now has had troubles down in corner number 2 once again, and for the second time has gone dead in the water. 132.1 for Winston Eagle, but look who's challenging.
And he is rocking back and forth. Very light action as you see those two boats going into turn number 2 now, and both of them pedal to the metal, and on the inside it's the Winston Eagle, on the outside the red and white Budweiser.
And as he takes the lead, Dick, we're getting word from the URC that Miss Budweiser was the leader anyway, because the Winston Eagle has been assessed 1 penalty for changing lanes prior to the start of the race.
And, of course, the Circus had engine trouble, is now sitting dead in the water down there as Chip Hanauer decides whether or not he can restart the boat. The Miss Budweiser, damage and all, now in the lead and taking command of the field. Winston Eagle, as the boats run, has dropped back to second place, but in reality has been penalized a lap, as Jim just told you. There you see Jim Kropfeld in the Winston Eagle. Now he's got to figure out his strategy because he technically is running fourth.
Dick, we're getting word from the URC radio that the Old Boy Alberto, driven by Mark Tate, has also been assessed a 1-lap penalty here in this final for cutting off the Mr. Pringles, and the Pringles is sitting dead in the water down in corner number 2 next to the Circus.
So attrition in this race very high at this point. Penalties are being assessed throughout the field. This boat so far running clean and running in first. Tom Deeth from Fairhaven, Michigan, in the Miss Budweiser. The boat has damage to it that could be a concern because it is structural damage to the back end of the boat. It's actually the driver's right. There you see Chip Hanauer. There is nothing more he can do. He cannot restart it. Look at the heat waves on that boat. You get an idea of how hot it is here on the Columbia River.
Tommy Deeth, damage and all to Miss Budweiser, completing lap number 3 at 129.1 mile an hour. 2 more laps to go.
That's right, and the damage is still a concern to that boat because the wakes that you see flying back into the back end of that boat are actually being caught, and on the turns, Jim, it's got to be especially damaging.
Looking down now to corner number 2, there's the Mr. Pringles and another spectator driver, that's George Woods Jr., as the Winston Eagle whips by him. Less than 2 laps to go for Tommy Deeth. Wears this boat like a suit of clothes. He can feel every vibration. He knows boats. He builds them, you know. In the off-season, he builds smaller class race boats.
And I notice as he comes around the turn, we're getting a little bit of a wobble from the wings in the back of that boat. That structure may be giving way underneath. So this race is far from over at this point. If the damage continues to increase on the boat, look at the wings as they wiggle in the back. He's got a problem back there. I don't even know if he'll be aware of it at this point, but that could affect the handling.
130.5. It didn't hamper the speed at all. But it's really wobbly now. Look at it. He better be careful in the turn. He could lose that whole tail section. It could cost him the race with less than a lap to go.
More than likely, the crew has already radioed to him that he has a problem with the boat, and he's aware of it, but whether or not he actually feels the problem is another situation. Of course, at this point, he has sole possession of first place with no challenge at all because the boat right behind him, the Winston Eagle, has been penalized the lap, and so has the Old Boy Alberto. We continue to watch the tail section as he goes into the final turn.
And with the penalty, Old Boy Alberto, who we're looking at right now, he's in 3rd place, but not really. He's actually in 5th because of the penalty, as our winner comes down to take the checker flag.
And he's just going to make it across with that wing as it continues to wobble on the back of that boat. A great shot right there as Tom Deeth claims the Budweiser Columbia Cup here on the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington. A great win for the Miss Budweiser crew, damage and all.
Winston Eagle coming in now will finish overall 4th place because of the 1-lap penalty. Here's your 2nd place boat, Holset Miss Mazda with Mike Hansen. We'll be back with a chat with the winners after this timeout. It's been an exciting day of racing here in Tri-Cities, Washington. For the fans, Miss Budweiser wins it. Holsett Miss Mazda second. Cooper's Express, Winston Eagle, Old Boy Alberto, the final results. Let's go to the pits and Dick Crippen. Dick?
Well, Tommy, you took the old lady home. She was hurting, but she was a wobbling and getting there.
Oh, she was a little bit crippled, and sure that makes up for the heat that I, got airborne, but nothing beats a Bud.
You went out there. Did you even have any idea as you finished up the race what was happening on the back end of the boat?
No, Lauren radioed to me that I was having a problem with the wing, and he said, take it easy. You got it made. Just I'll keep you apprised if the wing's going to come off. And I knew the back of the boat was hurt pretty good, so I was trying to take it easy the whole time.
All right, apparently Circus had a little bit of problem on the start. Were you aware of it?
Yes, I was. As soon as he went down, Lauren told me that he went down, and he said, just be safe and do the best you can.
So you held it in there, you take the win, you beat the river, even though she tried to bite you earlier.
Oh, yeah. Well, I kissed the river this morning, and I did that in 88, and we won in 88, so I forgot to kiss it in 89. So here we are at 9. I gave her a good kiss.
Here's the HFC High Point standings through 6 races. Shows the Miss Budweiser racing team with a 973-point lead over the field. Let's go to Mark Spencer.
Mr. Consistency, it paid off for you once again.
Yeah, I've been telling that to the reporters all weekend long, that we don't go out there and try to set world records and qualify and all that. And the deal was just to get enough points to get in the final heat and then do the best we can in the final heat. You know, a lot of things can happen there on a race course like this, particularly today being so rough and all. And, drivers can make mistakes and the boats don't tend to run all day long. So it paid off for us in the long run. We'd like to go out there and burned everybody up. Got second place the hard way, but we'll take it.
The HFC Series is now at the halfway point with remaining races: Seattle, Milwaukee, Kansas City, San Diego, Las Vegas, and Pearl Harbor. A long, hard day for the drivers and crews as well, but that expected battle between the big boys in the final heat just did not develop, Dick Crippen.
That's true, as so often it does not develop when you build all the way up to that peak during the day, but certainly engine trouble was the gremlin this time to the Circus. They'll be back. We know this boat behind us, the Miss Budweiser, will be going back to the home shop in Seattle where they race the next time around. They'll have it repaired. I think all the boats will be ready when they hit the water in Seattle again next week.
Mark Spencer, you saw a lot more action in the pits than maybe we saw in the water at times.
That's right. I think you can say, Jim, that this race was won in the pits. A tribute to Ronnie Brown and the crew of the Miss Budweiser and Bernie Little. That hour before the final heat, it was fast action. Everybody's hand was on deck getting the boat ready, and then Tommy Deeth, he delivered on the water.
Next stop, Seattle, Washington, Lake Washington for stop number 7 on the HFC Hydroplane Tour, and we'll be there. On behalf of Mark Spencer, Dick Crippen, I'm Jim Hendrick. So long.
The HFC Hydroplane Series is brought to you by HFC, Household Finance Corporation, America's financial resource. And by Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. This has been a production of IPI Sports in association with ESPN.